There are moments in every life when the world seems ordinary until a single event changes everything. This is the story of one such moment. A story of a melody that was never meant to be heard, a flute that was never meant to be found, and a journey that would carry one ordinary soul beyond the limits of time itself. The rain began just before sunset. Dark clouds swallowed the horizon, turning the evening sky into a sea of charcoal gray. Wind rushed through the forest like invisible rivers, bending ancient trees that had stood untouched for centuries. Lightning illuminated the mountain for a single heartbeat. Then, darkness returned. Far below the cliffs, a narrow trail twisted through dense woodland where every tree seemed older than memory itself. Birds had already disappeared. Even the insects had fallen silent. Nature itself seemed to be waiting. A lone traveler walked through the rain. His boots splashed against wet stone. His backpack was soaked. His phone had long since lost signal. Every map he carried insisted there was no settlement anywhere nearby. Yet, someone had told him there was an abandoned shrine hidden inside these mountains. Most dismissed it as folklore, a forgotten temple, an impossible ruin, a place where strange music was sometimes heard whenever thunder rolled across the valley. He hadn't believed any of it. Not until now. The wind changed. For a brief instant, a single note floated through the storm. Soft. Gentle. Impossible. It wasn't carried by the wind. It seemed to exist inside the rain itself. The traveler stopped. His heartbeat quickened. Again, the same note. A lonely melody. Neither loud nor distant. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. Every instinct told him to leave. Yet curiosity proved stronger than fear. He stepped off the trail. Branches scraped against his jacket. Ancient roots curled across the forest floor like sleeping serpents. The melody continued. One note became two. Two became an ancient tune, unlike anything composed in the modern world. Each step drew him deeper beneath towering trees whose branches blocked what little light remained. Time itself seemed to slow. Minutes stretched into something far longer. The rain faded, not because the storm had ended, but because the forest had become strangely silent. Then, he saw it. Hidden beneath layers of moss and vines stood weathered stone pillars. Broken stairs emerged from the earth. Half-buried statues watched in eternal silence. Their faces had long since been worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. The shrine. It was real. No roads. No signs. No footprints. Only forgotten stone standing against impossible time. The melody stopped. Complete silence returned. The traveler climbed the cracked staircase. Each step echoed through empty air. The entrance lay open. No doors remained. Inside, dust floated through faint shafts of fading light. Broken lamps rested against the walls. Ancient carvings covered every stone surface. Kings, warriors, sages, cowherds, rivers, mountains, stars. The carvings flowed together like a story whose language had almost been forgotten. At the center of the shrine stood a single pedestal. Nothing more. No treasure. No idol. Only an empty stone stand. Disappointment slowly replaced wonder. Perhaps legends truly were only stories. Then lightning flashed outside. For an instant, the pedestal glowed, not brightly, just enough for him to notice something hidden beneath centuries of dust. A small wooden box, Its surface carried intricate carvings untouched by decay. No look. No hing. Only a symbol engraved across its lid, a graceful flute surrounded by blooming lotus petals. He reached forward. The moment his fingers touched the wood, every sound vanished. The wind disappeared. The rain ceased. Even his own breathing seemed to stop. The world held its breath. Then, the box opened by itself. Inside rested a flute, unlike anything he had ever seen. Its surface shimmered with deep sapphire hues beneath veins of glowing gold. It looked ancient, yet impossibly untouched by time. No dust covered it. No cracks marked its body. It appeared as though someone had placed it there only moments before. Without understanding why, he lifted it. The wood felt warm, alive. A faint vibration pulsed through his hands. The carvings along its surface slowly illuminated, one after another. Golden symbols awakened like sleeping stars. His heart pounded. Reason demanded he put it back. Every rational thought urged him to leave immediately. Instead, almost unconsciously, he raised the flute toward his lips. "I don't even know how to play," he whispered. Still, he breathed. Only one note escaped. Just one. Yet that single note echoed far beyond the walls of the forgotten shrine. The forest answered. Leaves trembled. Mountains rumbled. Clouds above twisted into a massive spiral. Golden light burst across the temple floor. The ancient carvings began moving. Stone rivers flowed. Stone birds flew. Stone warriors marched. Entire civilizations awakened across the walls. The air grew impossibly bright. The floor beneath him dissolved into swirling circles of blue and gold. The shrine disappeared. The mountain vanished. Gravity itself seemed to break apart. He reached desperately toward solid ground. There was none. Light surrounded him. Not blinding, welcoming. Countless voices whispered in languages older than history. Then, one voice rose above all the others. Calm. Gentle. Timeless. You have heard the Eternal Flute. You answered its call. There is no returning to the life you once knew. The light expanded beyond imagination. Stars spiraled around him. Galaxies unfolded like blooming flowers. Time no longer moved forward. It moved in every direction at once. Then, everything went dark. Silence. Absolute silence. Until, very far away, a peacock feather drifted through endless light, and somewhere beyond the darkness, a flute began to play once again. There was no sensation of falling, no pain, no sound. Only silence. Not the silence of an empty room, but the silence that existed before the first sunrise, before the first river found its path, before the first bird learned to sing. Slowly, a warm breeze touched his face. Its fragrance carried wild jasmine, sandalwood, and the scent of fresh earth after rain. He tried to open his eyes. Everything was white, not blinding, soft. Like morning mist floating across a peaceful valley. The light slowly faded. Shapes began to emerge. Above him stretched a sky unlike any he had ever seen. It shimmered with shades of sapphire and gold. Clouds drifted lazily across the heavens, glowing as though they reflected light from somewhere beyond the sun itself. He blinked several times. His breathing became uneven. The storm was gone. The ruined shrine had vanished. The mountains, the forest, his world. Everything had disappeared. He pushed himself upright. Soft green grass stretched in every direction. Thousands of tiny blue flowers swayed gently in the breeze. Butterflies with wings brighter than gemstones floated lazily through the meadow. Everything seemed impossibly alive. Even the wind carried music. Not words, not voices, just gentle notes dancing through the air. He looked around for roads, buildings, power lines, anything familiar. There was nothing. Only endless rolling fields broken by distant forests and shining rivers. Far away, snow-covered mountains pierced the horizon. Their peaks disappeared into golden clouds. A flock of magnificent white birds circled above them before disappearing into the morning light. What is this place? His own voice sounded strangely distant. Even the air felt different. Every breath seemed richer, lighter, as though the world itself breathed with him. He searched his backpack. Everything remained inside. His notebook, his flashlight, his water bottle, his camera, his phone. He quickly switched it on. The screen flickered. No signal. No GPS. No network. The time displayed only a single symbol. Infinity. Then, the screen went black. Forever. A sudden rustling echoed nearby. He spun around. Tall grass moved gently. Someone, or something, was approaching. His heartbeat quickened. The grass parted. A young deer stepped into the clearing. Its fur shimmered like polished bronze beneath the morning sun. Large, dark eyes studied him with complete calm. It showed no fear, no hesitation. Instead, it slowly walked toward him. The traveler remained frozen. The deer stopped only a few feet away. It lowered its head, as though greeting an old friend. Then it turned, looked back once, and walked away. After several steps, it stopped, waiting, almost inviting him to follow. I've officially lost my mind. He laughed nervously. Yet, he followed. The deer guided him through flowering meadows and beneath enormous banyan trees, whose roots formed natural archways across winding paths. Everywhere, life flourished. Crystal streams reflected the sky like mirrors. Peacocks danced upon moss-covered rocks. Monkeys leaped playfully through towering branches. Bright parrots filled the forest with cheerful songs. None of them feared him. Instead, they watched him with quiet curiosity. Hours seemed to pass, or perhaps only minutes. Time felt strangely meaningless.
Eventually,
The forest opened. Before him spread a vast river. Its waters sparkled with silver light despite the rising sun. Lotus flowers floated peacefully across its gentle current. Children laughed somewhere downstream. The traveler immediately froze. Children? He carefully stepped closer. Beyond the reeds, he saw them. Young boys herding cattle across emerald pastures. Some carried wooden staffs. Others played simple reed flutes. Their joyful laughter echoed across the valley. Their clothing was simple, hand-woven, ancient. One of them noticed him. The flute music stopped. Every child turned. Silence filled the meadow. The traveler raised a cautious hand. Hello? None answered. Instead, one little boy smiled. A warm, knowing smile. as though he had been expecting this meeting all along. Without speaking, the boy pointed toward a distant hill. High above the river stood a magnificent tree. Its branches spread wider than a palace. Golden leaves shimmered beneath the sunlight. Even from this distance, the tree radiated an almost impossible peace. The traveler looked back toward the children. They had already returned to tending the cattle, laughing, playing, as though he no longer existed. Confused, he continued walking toward the great tree. With every step, the flute hidden inside his backpack grew warmer. He stopped, slowly removing the wrapped instrument. The carvings along its surface glowed faintly. One symbol after another awakened. A soft melody escaped the flute, not because he played it, because it was singing by itself. The air changed instantly. The breeze stopped. Birds became silent. Even the river slowed. The traveler stared in disbelief. Then, a voice whispered behind him, "You finally arrived." He spun around. An old sage stood beneath the shade of the great tree. His robes were simple. His long white beard flowed to his chest. His eyes held galaxies, not reflections, actual stars. Entire constellations shimmered within them. The old man smiled. "I have waited a very long time." The traveler struggled to speak. "Where am I?" The sage looked toward the flowing river before answering. "You are standing where countless seekers once dreamed of standing. This land has many names. But before you learn its name, you must remember why the flute chose you." The traveler frowned. "I don't understand." "You will." The sage gently touched the flute. Every carving illuminated brilliantly. Far away. The sound of another flute answered. Not this one. Another. Older. More beautiful than any music ever heard. The sage slowly closed his eyes. His smile became one of profound reverence. "He knows you have arrived." The traveler looked around. "Who?" The sage opened his eyes. For the first time, a trace of awe crossed his ancient face. "He whose music keeps every world alive." The breeze returned. The distant flute continued to play. And somewhere beyond the forests, hidden from mortal eyes, someone smiled.
And then what happened, Das uncle?
"Little one, you are too curious. I will tell you some other day."